My party, quite frankly, has been guilty in some respects of speaking in a way that doesn't sound very welcoming to new members. When you lead the most ethnically diverse state in America, you don't have the luxury of only leading and listening to those people who voted for you. And I've come here today to say to all of you that now is the time for us to start a great dialogue in our country that is not accusatory, that is not looking in the rearview mirror, but is looking through the windshield.
That, of course, is Chris Christie, and he was making the case for inclusiveness in the Republican Party when it comes to Hispanic Americans. With us now, we've got former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst and bookie Steve Rattner, also with his deputy campaign manager, Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential campaign, Katie Packer-Gage. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Steve, you must have heard yesterday me talking about furiously trying to figure out how to spend the $17.34 Phil Griffin gives me every month if I should bet on Jeb Bush. You say, despite the opinion polls, the smart money's still on Bush.
Well, you said yesterday that you were ready to bet your money on Jeb Bush, so I just wanted to give you some courage.
Okay, very good. That's what I need.
I know.
Go for it.
There's nothing, courage.
Because I lack courage. Go ahead.
All right, so there are those of us who believe that the online betting markets are a better predictor of outcomes than the polls. But
why is that?
Why? Because it's actually people putting down real money and saying, I think Jeb Bush is going to win. It's also, polls where you ask people who do you think is going to win actually do better than polls where you say, who are you voting for?
The track record's superior, going back time and time again. Sometimes they get 50 out of 50 states right. Sometimes they only get 48 out of 50 states right. I mean, they're right a lot more than the polls are.
Intrade, which was a predecessor, picked the last three presidential candidates with 48, 49, 50 states, one of those three in each of those elections. The last time around, picked 31 out of 33 Senate seats correctly. Anyway, let's look at what's going to happen in 2016, perhaps. So as you well know, the polls are very close among the top Republicans, even going all the way down to people like Ben Carson. But the prediction markets have a different view. They do think, notwithstanding everything I heard on the show a little earlier today, that Jeb Bush is well ahead of his other two. Yeah. They think Rubio and Scott Walker are essentially tied. And they basically think that this is a three-man race, and everybody else is to the right, and in the polls anyway, and all the people that are not on here are in very, very low single digits.
Again, stark contrast to what you hear, what you read, and also what you see in the polls.
All of those things. If you look at the polls, as you know, these 5 or 6 top people are all pretty tightly clustered, 8, 10, 11% each in the polls.
All right, so now let's look at odds that are longer than Secretariat in 1973 before running to Belmont. The Democratic side, Hillary Clinton, what is she?
Yeah, that's
1 to 30?
She's got a 76% chance of winning.
Yeah.
Now, that's also a bit more than what she has in the polls. The polls have her at about 59%. So, again, the market thinks that this is pretty clear and that none of the rest of these folks have much of a chance.
For Republicans, more troubling, your final chart, the smart money on whether Republicans or Democrats in the Oval Office in the next 4 years.
So and here again, the polls, the betting markets rather, are pretty clear. 59% think the Democrats are going to win. Again, if you look at the political polls, they would put it at very close to a horse race. Yeah. And there's a whole series of these online markets that basically think the same thing. Personally, I think it's a little early to be saying this, and I think some of this may be the fact that the Republican nomination is in such a muddle and the Democratic nomination seems so clear.
Boy,
but that's what it says.
That looks skewed. So,
you hope anyway.
Katie, you worked with Mitt Romney's campaign, and given what you've learned through that whole process, what do you think, what do you make of what's going on with Jeb Bush's campaign?
Well, I think that they recognize that they had some challenges, and so they're shaking things up. And I think some candidates make the mistake of doing that a little late in the game. I think he made the decision to do it early, and it's good to do it before you actually launch your candidacy. It's maybe a little unsettling a week before your launch.
Well, you obviously, based on the polls that you have, obviously you agree with Chris Christie that GOP needs to be more inclusive. And you think that may have hurt Mitt Romney in 12?
Yeah, we just did a survey with my company, Burning Glass, on immigration reform and the position that Republican candidates, might be likely to take in a primary, trying to appeal to voters on the right. And what we found was interesting. We found that only 1 in 5 GOP primary voters really feel strongly about the issue of sending illegal immigrants back to their country
Right.
of origin, that most Republican primaries Republican primary voters actually support a path to citizenship.
You worked with Mitt. Do you agree, like a lot of people agree, that what he said in Iowa early on absolutely
Sure, it was
shattered his
damaging.
chances
I don't
with
think it was the
Hispanics?
only reason that,
Yeah.
that we weren't successful, but it certainly was a contributing factor and handed our Democrat opponents a tool in their arsenal to whack them with, and it was harmful.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, thank you so much, Katie. We greatly appreciate it. Now, where can we find that poll if we want to go online and look at it?
Well, you can go to burningglassconsulting.com. We have it there.
Right.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Steve, stay with us if you can. Coming up, as the manhunt for those escaped prison convicts continues, we're going to talk to the Congresswoman who represents the New York district at the center of the search. That plus the must-read opinion pages. We're back in a moment.